All right, so good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Tuesday Notary Titans. Today is Tuesday, February 25th. It's the end of the month. I hope you're having an awesome one, and thank you for everyone who cut some time out of their day to hang out with us a little bit. I know I can speak for myself, and that this is one of the times that I really look forward to each week is hanging out and answering questions with you guys. My name is Bill Soroka. I'm the founder of NotaryCoach.com and the Sign and Thrive Notary Training Course and Community. We're here with Laura Biewer, one of our co-hosts and founder of CoachMeLaura.com. Laura, welcome.
Hello.
Thanks for being here, Laura. I know you're crazy busy over there in California as well. Laura, what are you excited about this week?
Well, I'm excited. Some of you have already seen it, but I'm excited that I have a new website. And I've had it, for about a month, trying to get it perfect. But I read something today that said, don't get it perfect, just do it. So I thought, well, there's some things I'd still like to do, but I would like to announce I have a brand new website. It's the same name, CoachMeLaura.com. It's on the Kajabi format that many of you have heard Bill talk about. And if you have a chance, go on over there and take a look. It's very different. And if you'd like to get my blogs, then leave your email with me if you haven't done that before, and you'll be sure to get communication from me every week.
I love it. And I love the work and the content that you've been putting out too. Extremely valuable. So thank you for that. And speaking of content, I mean, both Laura and Carol, you guys have been pumping out some great stuff. And Carol, I know you just shared an article that you just wrote, but everybody knows Carol Ray, founder of Notary to Pro. Carol, thank you for being here today. What are you excited about?
I've got a lot of things actually this week, believe it or not. I won't go over all of them. The thing I'm most excited about, to be honest with you, is that my youngest daughter is now working with me. She's a signer. She does her own, business, but she's taking over all of my accounting things and a lot of the loose ends that are very difficult to get to. The closer I can get to just mentoring my students and being there for them when they need me is what I'm just so happy about. So between my husband and my two daughters, they've taken over the parts that I'm not so crazy about, and I get to do the things that I love to do, which is working with my students. So
love that.
And I was excited about that article because the NNA had it in there. It was on reverse mortgages. They put it in their quarterly magazine. It appeared there, and then they put it out on the monthly bulletin for this month. And it's gotten some attention from people, and I'm very excited about it because I believe in the reverse mortgages.
Yeah.
Awesome. Love it. I love it. And I love that it's getting shared and passed around out there. So that's great information. So thank you, everyone. And thank you for everyone who is on the call, taking time out of your day today. Let's jump in and take a look. Anybody live on the call? Do you have a burning question or challenge, maybe even a big win that you'd like to share with anyone? Feel free to raise your hand. Don, I saw your hand shoot right up. Feel free to unmute and ask away.
Yes, guys, Bill, Laura, everybody, how are you all?
Excellent.
Been seeing you guys on YouTube for a while. Just signed up a week ago with Bill,
Awesome.
so yeah. Question. When I go on signings, some clients that doesn't confirm, but these agencies, they want you to still go. What do you guys think about it? I don't go and they get pissed off. But if you can't confirm, I'm not gonna drive out there. What do you guys think about that? I'm wrong, or what do you guys think?
Great question, Don. We've got this a few times in the past, and if it's okay with Laura and Carol, I'll deliver my answer first, and then I'd love to hear the different perspectives on this. And I think this is just a real good reminder, guys, of the value of perspective, even if there are different people with different opinions on how this goes. And if you want to add in your opinion in the chat window, I think that's totally fine too, because there are different ways of looking at this. For me, I have adopted the policy that if I tell someone I'm going to be somewhere at a certain day and at a certain time, then that's exactly what I'm going to do, regardless of whether or not I can get the borrower to confirm. Now, the thinking behind that for me is that somewhere down the line, somebody has confirmed with them and they are expecting me. So I'm going to show up to do the job that I'm getting paid to do. Now, there are sometimes, has that bit me in the rear end a couple times? A couple times, yeah, it has, where they just haven't confirmed because nobody up that chain that I was expecting to be there actually confirmed or communicated signing times. But that out of, I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands of signing appointments, to me, just doesn't justify changing my process or even remotely jeopardizing my integrity in my business, because that's really what I built my business around, is, you know, being the guy that can be counted on. So if I say I'm going to be there, I'm going to be there. The reason that I explain that so much is that there's a lot of different perspectives and sometimes, or different reasons for this stuff. So when a person applies for a mortgage, they usually do not give the number that they want people to call all the time. So they're not giving their cell phone numbers. A lot of times they're going to give their landline, you know, that line that rings in the back corner only when somebody's trying to sell them stuff. So it's not totally unheard of that people would not respond. But at the same time, I'm also proactive. You know, I want my client, and I want my clients to know that I'm trying to help them help their clients, and they're not being responsive. So sometimes they'll give me alternate phone numbers, maybe a cell phone number or a work number or something that might help me get in touch. But I never just do not show up. So I'm sorry, I know that was a really long explanation, and I'd love to hear Carol and Laura's perspective on this too, because I know it can vary a little bit. Carol, Laura, what do you think on situations like this?
Go ahead, Laura.
Okay. You know, I just had it happen yesterday. I had 2 signings same day where the signers were not responsive to my calls. And so I couldn't confirm. And I called back the signing company, who it was for me, and said, hey, look, I know you spoke with them. Is everything good? Because when I call, I'm not getting any call back. I'm just getting a voicemail. And the voicemail was full, so I couldn't even leave a voicemail. And she said, I personally talked with them, go. And I just went. So I try to find another path. You know, if I can't get with them directly, I go back to my contracting company and say, look, if you tell me to go, then I'm hired, I'm going. Even if I didn't speak to the signer. I just think that I need to do that. I'm more careful the farther away they are from me. You know, if it's an hour drive, but I got to tell you, I don't take appointments an hour away to begin with. I only take them in my area. So I'm not driving more than about 20 minutes. That's the worst that's going to happen to me if I show up and nobody's there.
Right.
I like that.
Yeah, because I stopped. I used to do it, and I went on a seller on a new home buyer. They didn't have the docs ready. They told me it's gonna be ready. I went with my printer, scanner, everything, waiting on the docs. Hour and 45 minutes await, nothing. They didn't have the paperwork. So after they say now, I say, well, what fee do I receive? And they say, hey, you didn't print docs, you didn't do anything, so I can't get a fee. So
hold on one second, sorry. So Don, I think that's that kind of stuff will happen every now and then too. I think it's the exception to the rule though, and I think that's what I was saying. Carol, I'd love to hear your take on this too.
Well, first of all, I've been at this for a very long time. And when we lived in Arizona, we did travel long distances at times because there wasn't that many signing agents, for one thing. If I could not get a hold of someone, and I tried every means that I could, excuse me, talk to people, have them look at the 1003. Is there any other numbers that you have? Does the loan officer have anything other than the numbers that are listed on the application? We would go through that process And if I couldn't find someone that had a number or someone that would tell me, listen, I talked to this guy yesterday, it's all a go do it, then I wouldn't do it. But we only had that happen in all the thousands signings that we've done. I've only had it happen a handful of times. And I never had a problem. I never regretted it because there was a problem. They just didn't want to see you.
Yeah.
Something
Okay.
had, gone wrong. But I agree with both of you in that if you are talking with people that have spoken to the buyers or borrowers and they know that they're waiting for you, then yes, we would go.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you for that. And then to just kind of button it up too, Don, because this is a really great question. There's a couple of other things too to keep in mind. Is when you go escrow direct or you experience escrow direct, you'll notice that this goes a lot differently.
Right.
Your escrow direct clients are probably going to pay you full fee, no questions asked. You showed up to do what you were going to do anyway, whether they were there or not. So that's my experience. I get paid no matter what. And there's a little bit of, I guess, almost privilege for escrow direct in that way because we're not getting dinged at all. But when you start working with signing companies that start dinging you a little bit for
Oh boy,
canceling or
I'm
not
telling
show,
you.
it's a little bit different, right? So you
Yeah,
you might
they
change
was
your
mad.
policies, yeah, because it's tough, and you're fighting, and it just depends on their relationship with their client. If they're getting paid a full fee, you would hope they would pass that on to you, but maybe they're not. The other thing that's real important too is that if we want to be treated like professionals, we've got to act like professionals. So if we want people to stop lowballing our fees, if we want to stop them treating us like we're just another cog in the wheel, then we have got to raise that bar. That is our responsibility. So in order to do that, then we've got to absolutely ensure integrity and professionalism on every level of this thing. So I think it's important that we, it's this expectation that of course we would show up because that's somebody said, hey, are you available? I'd like to hire you to do this. Of course we would show up. So that is on us, I think, to either step into that, and then don't be afraid to fire the companies that disrespect that. That's another side of this too, is that if you continually run into companies that have a history of not communicating or not paying or just being jerks to work with, fire them. Don't work with them anymore. Carrie Rivera has an amazing list at notaryreviews.org. Share your experience so other people can avoid it, and maybe we can get these companies to change their unfair policies.
True.
Great question, Don.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you, Don.
Bill?
Yes, hi.
Somebody wants to talk, but they can't figure out how to raise their hand. And actually, I can't even figure out how to tell them how to raise their hand.
Well, I can't figure that part out either. So whoever that person is, just unmute and ask away. Who is it?
It's
Paula.
Hey, oh, it's always Paula. Hey,
How are you?
Good.
So I wanted to comment on what the gentleman said. What I do, I learned to become kind of like a stalker, I guess. But so what I do is I try to get the loan officer's cell number, and then I text the loan officer and the borrower at the same time in the group chat, introducing myself to the borrower and letting them know that I'm trying to connect with them and that we have the appointment scheduled for this time, and if they need to cancel or reschedule, to please let me know. Once I do that, and I only do that when I cannot get a hold of them directly and they're not responding to my text or calls or emails. Once you do this, when you add a group chat with their lender, all of a sudden they seem to want to respond. Funny.
It's weird how that works, huh?
Yes. So then they're like, oh, my agent's on the group chat now, I better call or let them know that I am getting the messages. But anyway, something to, if you want to try that out, that always works for me.
Okay, thank you.
Great suggestion, Paula. Thank you. And that's the other thing too, is to be resourceful. Be that MacGyver notary that we talk about. You've got a stack of papers that has just about every piece of information about your borrowers that you can even imagine. So sometimes the 1003 or the loan application will have it. You can count on page 5 of the closing disclosure to have all the contact information for loan officer, escrow, broker, real estate agent, all of that as well. So if you really want to go over the top on communication, you can absolutely do that. Great suggestion. Thank you, Paula. Thank you, Don. Excellent.
Thank you.
Sparked a lot of good conversation there. So Kira Butler, I see your hand up. Welcome. How can we help? You have to, oh, you're already
Can you hear me?
Yeah, sure can,
Can you hear
Kira.
me?
Yep.
You said you can? Okay. Yeah, I'm glad you noticed me because I've actually went to the local registered deeds office yesterday here in my county.
Great.
And I did a little bit of research because I've been on all the signing lists. I've been on all the directories, the top 3. But I decided to go direct to look a little further, just by doing a little research in the group. And like I said, all of them are actually using local title companies from what I've seen here. So, like I was saying, I think a lot of people say go direct. But the thing is, a lot of the work, is from the actual title companies here, but they use their own employees, which they're called closers or the attorney. So there's really not any chance for us here in Shelby County for any direct work, really. It appears that everything comes from out of state, which would be like the national title companies per se, or signing services.
Yeah, sorry, we got a little bit of background there. Sorry, I'm looking for a mute button here. There we go. There you go. Okay. So really the question comes down to is what happens when escrow companies have their own in-house loan signers. They call closing agents, they call escrow officers, they call escrow assistants, they call closing attorneys. What's kind of cool about this problem, I love that you're bringing it up, Kira, because it's a challenge that every single one of us on this call faces. There's not a state or county around that doesn't have an escrow company that has staff to do these. Many of them do. In fact, almost every escrow officer or closing agent that you meet is going to be a notary in their own right, or they're going to have one on their staff to handle these. So this is really, really common. And then I'd love to hear from Laura and Carol on this too. I'll just offer a quick 2 cents on it. Here is the value that we have as mobile notaries and loan signing agents is enormous to this industry. And there is always an opportunity for us to provide value on the mobile side, because not all signers, regardless of what their escrow officer says or their real estate agent or their loan officer or what attorney or whatever, they sometimes just can't get to the closing table. So there is always going to be a need for our services. So on top of that though, there's also, I got interrupted, sorry. And it went away. So I'll chime in afterwards, but I'd love to hear Laura and Carol, your take on this, because this is something that we all have to overcome.
Well, I'll jump in, but I'm going to give you a perspective of the same issue, but not loan signing. Same issues with doing trust work for attorneys. Those attorneys sometimes are notaries. They have notary, they're a receptionist, or they've got a paralegal who's a notary. So, I can face, and anybody can face that same issue. And so I don't let that be a stumbling block. One, I continue to reach out to them, but I let them know how I could be of value, even though I realize they've got a primary person. So that person's got to go on vacation. That person's going to be sick. That person might have a gap between commissions. That person could go on maternity leave or paternity leave. That person has a lot of reasons why they might not be utilized. Maybe they're in the office only and they don't go after hours to a client's home. That might be another reason. Or the weekend, they don't work on the weekend. That could be another reason. Or it just happens to be a really busy day and they need extra help. These are all reasons to have extra staff that doesn't cost them any money unless they use it. You know, it's not like your employees, you got to pay for them every day, no matter what the workload is. But to have a backup staff that you don't pay for unless you need them at the last minute is fabulous. And that's the way I go about it. The other thing is you could offer, you know, a try me. You know, hey, I'll do one for free. Try me. I still may be on your backup list, but now you'll know the quality of my work. So that might be another way to let them know that you would be of great value. So it's the same issue that you face in the NSA world. It's just a different client.
Which in many ways is just the same issue with any business. It's how can we convince people to use that they need our services or our products. That's what it comes down to. Carol, anything to offer?
Well, yeah, a blast from the past, I suppose. As everybody knows that knows me knows that I was an escrow officer and then an escrow manager. I ran 2 different companies. Back then, there was no such thing as mobile notaries. And we felt that it was our responsibilities we've been working with the sellers and the buyers and realtors throughout a whole process. They became our babies, and part of our process was completing it by doing the signings in our offices. I did start going to people's homes because I worked in a community where people worked, you know, full weeks of work and they couldn't get into the office. So oftentimes I would go late at night, or I would go on the weekends myself and go to their homes and do this. But it wasn't until late 90s, early 2000s, that there even was such a thing as mobile notaries doing this job. And so I think that when I think about working with escrow officers and title agents and things, you have to understand that their responsibility in this, they take a lot, and Bill, you probably know this, they take it very personally. They really want to know who they're dealing with and the quality of the people that they're dealing with. And they do everything that they can if they're good. If they have OCD like I do, you make sure that the people that you're working with, whether it be outside help or help in the office, are going to present you the way you want to be presented to your customers. So you have to be willing to go a lot farther than you do if you're just working for a signing service.
Yeah, very true. Very true. And you brought up a couple of really great points in there too. Let's talk a little bit more about the reasons to use this, because if we can all come to the agreement that every one of our ideal customers already has most likely people in mind or people on their team that they might use. Or they might have that mindset of, I don't need mobile notaries, because just like what Carol laid out here, you get into the escrow business, and Carol can speak to this too, there's almost no escape. When you're in it, you're in it. You're a lifer. If you've made it 5 years, you're probably going to be there 30 years. You know, there's just something about it that you're addicted to. It's the stress, it's the energy, it's the difference that you make in helping people buy their dream homes, you know, all of that. So if you have a real estate or an escrow officer that has concerns over that, or no, I have to do it, I have to control it. Once you know what their motivation is, you can craft your messaging to appeal to that. If you have somebody who is a quote unquote control freak or OCD or wants to know everything, like I've said this before, I love my OCD clients. They helped make me a better notary at this. So I love those types of energies. So that kind of goes to what the overall theme here is. Anytime you have somebody who is either loyal to someone else, like, nope, I got my notary and I love working with them, or nope, I got my system and I love my systems and I love how everything fits into it. Well, not everything's going to fit into that system. It's just not the way the world goes. So when I hear people with loyalty like that, whether it's to themselves and their systems or to their notary or their notary teams, those are the people I flag. Those are who I want to stay around, because they know how business works. This is relationships. So even if they're not ready for me now, maybe I'm not ready for them, but I will be. So I want to be there in the wings when that dynamic changes or that relationship retires or moves away or whatever it is, there's always opportunity here. And that leads me to the next thing about this too, is a lot of times people go and they drop a business card off at the front desk with a receptionist, and they count that, they check that off the list of marketing. Whoop, I did my marketing today, I dropped the business card off. And while that definitely is in the category of action versus inaction, it's still not the most effective way to build a relationship. It's like writing your phone number on the bathroom wall. You never know what's going to call you back. You want to take more control over that. You want to have control over the communication. So you get their business cards. You stay top of mind with them. Check in every month, every couple months, whatever you're comfortable with, and let them know that you exist and that you love what you do and that you can provide service to them. That's the key on that one. Excellent question. Thank you for that, Kira. And Kira, I'm just reading what you've expanded on here. I've even studied their title companies and there are ways, always hiring closers. And I basically said, hey, hire me. I am no cost and an asset instead of hiring someone over and over. Apparently they can't keep employees, so they hired a contractor. And that's a great demonstration of the point. Those relationships change all the time. Sometimes we have to, if we want to succeed in our business, we have to be the ones responsible for painting that picture. We got to show them, look, you're going through all this hassle. You don't need to do that anymore. Now I can set up a on-site, and I just wrote an article about this, an on-site signing. So you work out a fee. If I pop into your office, this is my fee that I get every single time, whether that signing goes or not. Maybe it's only $70 versus $150, but you don't have printing and you don't have to drive all over town. You get to make a decision on whether that's right or not. All right, excellent. Kira, thank you for that. Also, guys, always available to all three of us. You know, we love what we do. We love the coaching. If you schedule calls in advance, you can get all three of us on individual coaching calls, and we can help you dive a little deeper into this stuff too. Okay, Anna DeCayan. How's it going, Anna? You want to go ahead and unmute and ask your question?
Hello there, how are you?
Good, Anna, how's it going?
Everything is good. Hey, I had an interesting situation this morning that I wanted to share with everybody. And actually the question is, I did something where, what I did is I decided to re-ink my notary stamp this morning, and I have a signing today. Now, it's a little thick. The ink is a little thick on the sides. So my question is that an issue as long as all the information on the stamp comes out? Is it a problem if it's not evenly inked when I stamp?
Great question. Love to hear that. Laura, would you like to take the first answer on this one?
Well, the law typically states they want legibility. They don't want anything interfering, any pre-printed materials interfering within the borders of your stamp, and they want it to be legible. But I want you to think beyond what you can see. It needs to be photocopyable or scannable. And sometimes things don't scan the way it looks to the naked eye. So I can't see it myself, so I'm not sure what that looked like. But I do want to say this: if anybody is buying their style stamps or mini stamps from the NNA, those have a cartridge refill that is exchangeable. You do not add ink, and you will ruin that stamp if you add ink to it.
Good to know.
Well, mine's a brother. You know, actually, I'm not sure if it answered the question. It sounds to me, basically, I take pride in the quality of my stamp, in that I make sure that it is fully even. So sometimes the middle comes out just a little lighter than the edges, just very, very faintly, and I'll go ahead and redo my notarial certificate. Okay. So what I discovered is, because my stamp is one that needs to be re-inked, it does not have the pad like the NNA stamp. Okay. You know, my question was basically, is it going to be an issue because the ink on the sides is a little thicker. Now, hopefully, I did call the company where I had purchased it from, and they said to let it just continue to sit, and for future reference, it takes 24 hours for the ink to bleed through the whole pad. So my question really is, if it's a little thick and there's nothing I can do about it, how do I handle that?
So we don't know how the receiving agency is going to handle it. I really can't be the answer person for that.
Okay.
I'm not getting it, right? They're going to get it, and they'll have to decide if they accept it. If it's legible, then I suspect they will accept it, even if it's a little bit more or less on one side or the other. But I'm not the receiver of it, so it's always the receiver's choice.
Okay, I appreciate that. In between time, I keep just stamping it on the paper to, try to get it to move.
Right.
So, okay, well, thank you everyone for that.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you for that, Anna. I think in general, as long as you have a crisp, clear, and non-faded stamp, you usually work out okay. Especially the borders seem to have less impact, or at least if you don't have anything within your border of your stamp. Excellent question. Paula, I see your hand up again. Was that for a new question or the old one?
A new question.
All right, awesome.
Laura, can you explain how you have a signature by mark executed on your journal and on the document?
Sure. And so, first of all, let me just state that not every state has that accommodation. And
I'm in California.
Yeah, I know. I'll say the California one, but I know I got more than California listening to me. So you may be, if you're listening and you are not in California, you may or may not have this accommodation. You'll have to check your state law to see if you have that accommodation. Not all 50 states do. Second of all, there are some states, I want to say Kansas is one, where they don't have signature by mark. Whatever mark or signature the person makes is acceptable, and there is no special procedure. And then some states have a signature by mark that don't require witnessing. So everybody's state's a little different. Now, that said, let me say what it is in California. It requires 2 witnesses. The mark can be anything, including a finger or thumb print on the signature line. One of the witnesses will print the name of the signer, what that mark represents. So let's just say it's mark of Joe Signer. And underneath that signature line will be white space, hopefully, where the 2 people can sign as witnesses. They need the word witness either before or after their name, so we know their role in signing the document. So that's all you have to do on the document. The certificate does not look any different. No changes, just the signer's name goes there. Then when you get to the journal, you only need one of the witnesses. Again, you're going to repeat that process. So they're going to make their mark, and that witness is going to write mark of Joe Signer. And in the additional information or notes column, they'll sign their name as signature by mark witness. So you need 2 of them on the document, 1 of them in the journal, and that's how it works in California.
Thank you, Laura.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that.
Great question. Thank you. All right, Guy, great to hear from you. You can unmute and ask away.
Hey, Bill, I was just going to add a comment to a previous question about working direct. I started with a title company about 4, maybe 6 weeks ago at most. They emailed me today and said, can you come to our office and help us out? We're overbooked. And I quickly agreed to do that. And then I asked them, how much time do you usually allow in office for doing a closing? And they said 30 minutes. And I said, I'd love to be able to watch the procedure or the techniques or how you go about doing that. And they said, well, I've got signings before and after. Come up and you can sit in on whatever you want to sit in on.
Nice.
So that's a way that I'm able to help the title company out. And I'm hoping that I'll learn some things there that'll help me out so that signings can go quicker when I'm out in the field.
Yeah, I'd be really curious to see how that goes. So when does that happen, Guy?
Friday,
All right, nice.
What state are you in, Guy?
Colorado.
So I'll be interested to know their technique because my personal experience, as well as one that I saw Anna write about on Facebook the other day, is that they can go so fast because they do not follow procedure in recording the journal. They do not follow procedure in filling out their certificates at the table. And so I certainly hope you get to see a fabulous example of the right way to do it in 30 minutes.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'll be watching for those.
Yeah.
I won't call those shortcuts. I'll call those cheats.
Guy, I have a question to ask you.
Okay.
I'm so proud of you. When did you
Thank you.
graduate?
From your course?
When did you graduate? You're one of my first.
Yeah, I'm thinking it was maybe 04, 2004. Does that sound possible?
No, because I didn't start till 9. And I think you
Okay.
came to me in 2010. And
Okay,
Guy
that
is
could-
a wonderful example of somebody who's been through it all.
Yeah,
He's
I
had a lot
appreciate
of
your help.
situations.
It's fun when you have a question
great guy.
and you think you might know the answer, but it's fun to call and say, do I know the answer? And get Carol's opinion on it.
Well, you're a wonderful person to work with and a great notary signing agent. I'm very
Thank you,
proud of
Carol.
you.
Thank you, Carol.
That's
I
all. I just
appreciate
wanted to
that.
get that in.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I love it. Congratulations, Guy. And yeah, I would love a follow-up on Tuesday if you're available. Next TNT, we'd love to hear how your Friday went.
Okay. Yep.
All right, excellent, thanks. Hey, Don, it looks like you have another question. Feel free to unmute.
Yes, sir. All right, I think I got 2 questions.
Okay.
One is on states. Does sign-ins, does states differ? Like if you're in a state, will you not experience a certain amount of signings, or how it goes? Or you need to move to like Washington State, or how it goes actually with
Good
the
question.
loan signings?
So your question, you're really just asking, is there a difference in volume depending on what state you're in?
Yeah.
Okay, good question. And that simple answer is yes, definitely. The population of your particular area will have an impact. I can't tell you that you're going to get the same amount of signings in a state with 1,000 people in it as you would with 1 million people.
All right. So wait, before you continue, I don't mean to cut you. So it only have to deal with population. That's it.
Population and commerce. I mean, people have to be buying stuff and selling stuff. Real estate, mainly for the loan, for the signing agent side of it. On the general notary work side, I mean, that's when you look at our profession as a whole, there is literally opportunity everywhere. I mean, anytime people are buying stuff, selling stuff, being born or dying, they are going to need a notary public. So there's going to be opportunity no matter where you're at for that. But depending, like on the loan signing side, you know, you can be in LA, San Diego, Phoenix, Atlanta, you can be in Miami, and you're going to be,
I know Pennsylvania.
in Pennsylvania too. But of course, it depends on your metropolitan area too. You know, something in Hershey might get this different amount of volume as Philadelphia. You know.
Sure. One more question. I think it's for Laura. So Laura, you were the NNA, right?
Yes.
I see you had to talk about jail signings. I was searching all over online, like how do I even call the courts? How do I go about like getting it? Who do I contact? I call the jails, but they didn't even know what I'm talking about. Like who do I contact, or where do I go
Okay,
to
well,
sign up for jail signings?
you don't go sign up anywhere because that's not how general notary work works. There aren't any signing companies that do that unless it's haphazardly. So you want to do some research. You want to go to the jails to find out, do they have their own notaries in-house?
Oh.
We need to know that. Some jails will not use outside
Go to the facility.
So you have to go to the facility. The second thing is the way, let's just say mobile notaries are allowed to go in there. Then you don't go through the court, you need to get the public's attention. That's who's calling me. So I have a website, and they find me on my Yelp page or my Google My Business page, and it says that I go to jails, or on one of the directories that I'm on that says I go to jails. And it's the public that finds me and hires me. Now, the other kind of client I get are attorneys. So criminal law attorneys who have clients in jail. And so sometimes they'll need me to go in and take care of documents for them. So those are really my two big, my final one would be bail bond companies. Not as much, they don't go to the jail. Usually they're in an office and it's a deed of trust that's being notarized and the client's right there, and they tend to have notaries. Again, I get business from bail bond companies because their notary doesn't go to somebody's home. Sometimes they do have to go to the jail for some reason. So those are the three areas I get that business.
Okay, and you say for medical, they could look at social workers. You could talk to social workers to do medical institutes.
Well, it depends on, that's a big variety of facilities. It's not all social workers. The hospitals, yes, it probably is social workers. But assisted living facilities, skilled nursing, it can be an administrator, it can be a different person.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Great questions, Don. Thank you. Melissa, I see your hand up. Would you like to unmute and ask your question?
Hello.
Hi, Melissa.
Hi. Quick question for you. I've noticed sometimes in some of the loan signing documents that there is more than one statement of information, or sometimes it's a statement of identity. The document is pretty much exactly the same. There might be just a couple of things that are different. Do you have them fill out both of those every time? I just had one yesterday that had 3 of them in there.
Yeah, good question. Carol, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, they're very time consuming. And I don't think everybody understands what those are for and why they have to be filled out by the borrower. You can't do it for them. These statements are rather, they explore people's backgrounds. They want to know how many children they have, divorces, past where they've lived. And the reason for that is when they have people who have very common names, especially. You've got a Robert James Smith and another Robert J. Smith. They might have files with people with the same names. Those statements of identity and statements of information are used to discern the difference between the people. They can tell by histories, where they lived, occupation, whether they're working with the correct Smith or Jones or whatever it is. You don't usually have those in files where they have very complicated names. And they may be distributing those to, mostly it's for title company, but escrow company may use those at times, and the title companies. So they may have 2 or 3 in the file. Most of the time it's only 1, but that is why they have those. And I've heard of people, like students will call me and they'll say somebody objected to filling all that personal information, and I explain to them why that is, so that they make sure that they have the right person.
So you're suggesting that, like I've never had 3 in one package before. I've had 2. You're suggesting that they fill out every single one of those.
Oh yes.
Yep. So and that's
okay. And you can't do it. But you can't sit there and do it for them. That's
right.
Something they have to do.
Yeah. So
okay.
Melissa, like the general, for everybody else who's listening, the general rule of thumb, and you have to hesitate doing those because there's very seldom umbrella policies and statements that work for everything in this business. But for the documents, if they have included the document in the package, the expectation is that they fill it out, that it gets filled out and signed if required. What we don't want to fall into as loan signing agents as some sort of cryptographer, and we've got to go in there and decipher whether they intended to leave this document in there or take it out. once we start applying too much logic and we are too involved in the loan document package, and we've crossed a line. That's not our job. If we have to make some assumptions that somebody down the road is doing this for a reason. Could it be a mistake? Absolutely. Does it make sense to have 3 of the exact same statement of identities in there? It makes no logical sense at all, but as we know, logic does not always prevail in this industry. So really, if you wanted a little bit of peace of mind with these, it's just that, yeah, it kind of sucks, but they want us to fill this out. And then I try to be very super efficient with when they get that document to fill it out. So whether it's the statement of identity or some other, the certification of trust that can take a little bit of time, whatever it is, I just give that to them in the beginning. So they're filling that out. I'm doing my ID, my journal, prepping all that stuff up at the beginning so we're on the same page so we can get started at the same time. Laura, did you have any other suggestions for that, for the duplicate and triplicate documents that are often found in a loan document package?
Well, I'll give you a secret. If it's the identical document, I've told them, fill it all out. Don't sign and fill out the very bottom. Make a photocopy of it. And then they have original signatures at the bottom. And now they got 2 or 3.
Nice.
Ooh, I like that idea.
That's how I've done that.
I've done the same thing, and it saves a lot of time. And I don't know if you remember, but back in not too long ago, notices of right to cancel. Oh my God, you'd get sometimes 8 or 12 of those darn things. And you're sitting there going, well, what am I supposed to do? Have them execute 12 copies of the notice of right to cancel. So now they've made it very clear, 2 executed for each borrower and 1 for the lender.
Yep.
But I do mine at the end, or I used to do it at the end, so that while I was checking documents, they would be sitting there busy doing the statement of identities and stuff.
That's it.
Got quiet.
Yeah, sorry, I was answering a chat question. Sherry Tizono, you want to go ahead and unmute yourself? Welcome, Sherry.
Hello.
Hi there.
Hi, guys. I'm on the road here. I'm going to pull over 83 miles today for a signing.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm exhausted. Anyway, my question is, I had a signing a couple days ago, and they insisted that I use black ink and a black stamp. Well, I have a blue stamp. So after I called the title company, they said, well, it's okay. Have any of you ever heard of that?
Well, I've heard of some weird stuff, but that's unusual that they would regulate the color of your ink for sure. Laura, Carol, have you heard of anything like that?
There are some states in their recording office. Nevada is a state that's very specific about their color of ink. Utah, I want to say Utah, can use purple ink. But I think part of it is the receiving agency, the recording agency is saying something about it. That's why you'll find that NNA just has black ink. Unless there are some exceptions, there's a purple or violet alternate, but that's the only alternate. You won't find them selling green, brown, blue, or any other colors.
I encourage my students, if they have a choice, to use blue, because you can't tell the difference anymore between copies and originals. Blue is the only way that you can tell for sure that it's an original.
Right, and so I use blue ink, meaning my pens, but my ink stamp is black.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I believe it's Nevada that it cannot be any other color but black, or they won't accept it.
Oh, nice.
No, I encourage it on this, yeah. What we used to write on.
Right.
The ink pens.
That's a really good point to check your notary instructions too, because it'd be really easy just to miss all of them. And it's real easy too. I'm sure you guys have noticed this. Once you get in the groove and you think you're making it, and then all of a sudden you stop reading the notary instructions, because they just become so repetitive, and then you see some random instruction like use black ink, not blue ink. So it's still real important, no matter how experienced you are, to look at those notary instructions.
And
never assume that I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Carol. I was just going to say, talking about reading those instructions and making sure you're sure you understand what it says, because I just did a signing and she called me back and said, you know, is there a reason why you included a check? It was like $250. It was a small amount of money, rather than having them use the wiring instructions. And I said, well, no, they offered the check, and usually small amount of funds can be with a check. And she said, well, it said be sure to give them the wiring instructions. And I said, I did give them the wiring instructions. I didn't know that was code for we don't accept checks.
Right.
So if they had just said we don't accept checks, I would have said, hey, I know it's only $250, but you're going to have to wire it. Instead, I said, here are the wiring instructions if you choose to go that way. They said, oh, we're just going to write a check. It's a small amount. So I put it in. And the title company was like, we don't take checks. Like, you know, it would have been nice if you had said it that way.
Right, exactly. Much more clearer.
In the instructions too, I found that the states, all of the states have different levels at which they'll accept checks.
Mm-hmm.
There's some states will not accept anything over $200. And there's others, like I think Indiana will accept personal checks for up to $5,000. But I was going to say, it's really important, even if you've worked for the same company and done 50 signings for them, you have to read those instructions because they do change. And I have learned that the hard way by not paying attention, thinking that the instructions were the same as the ones I did last week, and found that they had added something new or taken, you know, something away. It's crucial. It's the most important thing you can do for a signing.
Awesome, love it. Patricia Bridges, I see that you have your hand up. Would you like to unmute and ask?
I don't know if you'll have enough time. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Signings have been coming to me, and it's been the bane of my existence. And I've been holding on to what I think I know. And I would really like to get some help on that. But nonetheless, I had a signing the other day where when I contacted the client, he informed me, not the signing service, that it would be a split signing, that his wife would not be there because I was telling him what he and she needed to have since I was meeting him at his job. And I said, well, I know your wife is coming, and NBS, non-barring spouse, she needs to have this, that, and the other. No, another notary is going to her job, blah, 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 blah. I said, oh, really? Okay. Thank you for the information. And I hung up, and this was also going to be on a Monday morning. I called the signing service, and they were unaware. So then after I looked at the documents, and I was like, okay, how am I doing this? How am I notarizing this? So I called them on Sunday, and strangely enough, somebody answered. And they were saying, well, what they're going to do is merge the documents together. I said, how are they going to merge it with my notarization of him? So I said, I'll just scratch out the signatory line for her, put my initials. Oh, no, you can't do that. Well, I said, how do I do the notarization? So what we agreed on after they got their manager, their boss, was for me to line out an initial, the affidavit line with the wife's name on it, not the signatory line. And I was able to have him to sign, and I stamped and did all of that. Was I right? Were they right? Because I refused to sign it any other way where I could not take her name off the document in some form or fashion. Because she didn't appear before me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, this is great. And I love that you're bringing up split signings. And just so you know, Carol and Laura too, is I told Patricia that we would do a brief presentation on split signings because I know we get a lot of questions, but I think they need something visual. Because just to show on when you have borrower A, this is what your document's going to look like.
Yes.
And document B, this is what it needs to look like. Because it's really confusing, and it's really easy to miss signatures when you're doing these split signings.
And the document had, like initials almost on every page. So, how do you do that for the documents that she also needs to sign on, but it's not in front of me? Well, but I did what I did, and it went through, and I'm hoping that everything was fine.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is a great scenario. And I think that both Carol and Laura and I could really create a nice presentation to show this. But in general, and Carol, Laura, I'd love to hear your feedback too, but really the only thing that we need to alter on these documents is your notary certificate, the part that pertains to us. So, and you said it just now, Patricia, the part that says appeared before me, that's obviously the part that is not happening, but there's a lot of other things that might be happening in the background too. So are they using the same document package that you have for the wife as well, or are they just sending another package? So it's just like a mirrored image of yours, just the other notary is going to cross out the husband versus that. So
they didn't tell me at first. I called the loan officer. She did apologize because of not having told anybody, and because he owed a big check to me. She didn't tell me that she told him he could wire it to her. So I said, I just need your name so that I can let my signing service know who you were and what your name is, that he didn't have to include a check with the package. It's fine with me, you know, so.
I'm sorry, I'd like to add something to this too. And it's right. And I work with the students all the time on this because it's very confusing when you've not done it before. But always keep in mind that the one thing that you have control of is your notarial certificate. That area where you have your venue and the date and the names of the parties. It's imperative that if you do not have a person appearing before you, in the case of a split signing, that you line out the name of that party that is not appearing before you and initial it. You don't touch the signature lines because there are a lot of times when they're using the same document. So you're going to cause the other notary a real problem if you start scratching out the names of the person that they are going to be witnessing. But another thing that you've got to keep in mind is if you're doing a split signing, that means that there is another notary involved. And I find that so many times the problem is the other notary doesn't know what they're doing. And you will get a document that has both names within the confines of your notarial certificate. And it's imperative that you call the title company or whoever hired you and let them know that these certificates are incorrect, because no one is supposed to, like, I couldn't put a line through that person's name because that's their portion, and it's not nobody can touch those certificates except us. I did run into a situation once where the other notary was sent a letter to sign stating that it was giving title company permission to put a line through that name in the certificate. And honestly, I had never dealt with that before, and I wasn't even sure what to do, but I felt, as long as the lender and title company were all involved in it and were willing and able and anxious to put a line through that name that didn't appear before her, then I said, go ahead, it's okay with me.
Yeah.
Well, I told them, Carol, that I wasn't comfortable with not taking a line through it somewhere. And they said, okay, as long as it wasn't on the signatory line. So I was able in the affidavit statement where it said husband, wife, appeared before me, da, 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 my notarial stamp, the date. So I lined out her name, put my initial and the date, and they said that was okay.
That was a one-page affidavit.
No, it was on several pages. I had several.
But that area is one of those where it's actually the notarial certificate is like the whole page.
Yeah, it was on several pages of this document. But like I said, I talked to the loan officer, I talked to title, and everybody assured me that the way that they were telling me that I was comfortable with, because her name had to come off. And I was the first notary that's just being told by the client that it was a split signing. And I'm going, okay, thank you very much.
I always prefer to be the first notary.
Yeah, and I was the first notary because the wife wasn't getting signed till later on in the day for the non-borrowing spouse portion, which is the notice of right to cancel and what the mortgage portion. But again, I would like to just be more confident. I was emphatic about what I wouldn't do, but that could have been a bluff on my part. In fact, I know it was, but I want to be confident when I say split signing if I'm first, second, or third.
Yeah.
What my portion is. And I don't feel that I'm at that level yet, but I could easily get there with some help.
Patricia, we have something in the library on the graduates website. I'm sorry for that. On the graduates website, there is I have a video on split signings. I think it's the video.
Okay. Okay. I will check it out, Carol. Thank you, Bill.
Okay.
Thank you, Laura.
All right. Thank you. Great question. And we have one more hand that has been up for several minutes. So I'd like to give Blanca a chance to ask her question and get one final answer.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sure can. Thanks for your patience.
Yes, I'm driving as well, so I have to be really quick. Good afternoon, everybody. I have a wedding on Sunday, and I have a question because they want me to also notarize their prenuptial agreement. I made a comment on one of the notary forums, and they said that I'm not supposed to do that, but I'm only signing. Am I not supposed to sign a prenuptial agreement? I'm not the one creating the document. I know that's illegal.
Yeah, so I don't see any problem with that. It's just another document. Laura, have you heard anything?
No, I don't see any conflict.
What state are you in, Blanca?
In Texas.
In Texas, yeah. I had never heard of that unless it's just a document that's not normally notarized and they're just going above and beyond and asking you to notarize it. So you might want to have a jurat and an acknowledgement handy. But
I know that she sent me like part of the document and it looks like an acknowledgement to me.
Okay. Yeah.
Would that be okay for me to sign it like that? I mean, that's what they want.
If it's already got the acknowledgement on there, then that's what you go with. You go with what the document is instructing you to do. I do a lot of prenups and they are acknowledgements. But I don't see just because you're performing, you're saying you're performing the marriage.
Yes, I'm doing your marriage. Yes. Yes.
And in both cases, you know, you're not the one getting married. So
Exactly.
You're not direct, you're indirect. You're just facilitating or working on behalf of the client. I don't see a conflict.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because I posted it on one of the forums and they said, oh, you're not, I didn't mention the marriage part, but I said, I'm doing this notary for prenup. I said, how much am I supposed to charge? And somebody said, oh, you're not supposed to do that. That's an attorney. I said, I'm not preparing the document. I'm just signing it as a notary.
Oh, right. Yeah, this is what we do. we notarize signatures.
Okay, well, thank you so much, okay?
Yeah, Blanca, thank you so much for taking time to ask that question because that is a perfect way to end because next week on Wednesday, we're doing the wedding officiant training again. One of my big commitments in 2020 is really expanding and creating a sustainable business. So we have a business that lasts no matter what the housing economy is doing because it's booming right now. We want to continue that trend in wedding officiants. If you've got the right personality and the right desire to make that work, it's an awesome and fun way to make a living. So we have Mark Allen Grollo, founder of the Unboring Officiant. He is going to be here next Wednesday, and I do have it, the link inside the chat window. It's notarycoach.com/booked solid. And it will be recorded and available to anybody who wants to watch afterwards as well. All right, guys, thank you so much for carving some time out of your day to grow yourself and your business. Carol, thank you so much for making the time for us. I know it's crazy busy as we coach people at end of month, but thank you for being here. Laura, same thing with you. Thank you so much for taking time out. I know we all appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
See you later.
Bye-bye. I'll see you in a minute, Laura.
Okay.